Interviews for marriage-based green cards are back, so this is not a fluke. I made a video last week saying that this is a new policy under the Trump administration where they're going to bring in everybody who has a green card application pending based on a marriage, so they have a spouse who is petitioning for them, or they may be a stepchild of that marriage, and so they're going to be called in for interviews. Now, we already have reports of people getting scheduled for these interviews, so making this video to let you know what do you need to do to be prepared for these videos. I've been to hundreds of these interviews during the first Trump administration, and I have a lot of good tips for you. Obviously, this is not attorney advice. You do need to, I strongly encourage you to hire an attorney. So what do you want to do? What is the interview like, and what do you need to know to be well prepared for the interview? Okay, obviously you're going to get an interview notice in the mail, just like you get your receipt notices for your 485, your I-130 after the initial filing of the application. Sometimes they give you 2-3 weeks before the time that you're going to receive the interview notice. If you need to reschedule it, you can always make a request for rescheduling. I would recommend against that because God knows these things are going to get delayed probably a lot more under the Trump administration, and it could be many months before they reschedule your interview. So be prepared to move forward. If you have an attorney, hopefully, obviously, that attorney will do a mock interview with you. That's what I do. I prepare you. I will go over all the questions with you. This is your last chance to go over the forms that you've submitted. So make sure there's any changes. If there's any changes to your address, or perhaps there's just been an error that's been made, you want to do that. You want to make those changes and be prepared when you go to the interview, especially if it's a very important yes or no question, like perhaps you've marked on there that you weren't arrested, but you have been arrested. You definitely want to change that to yes, and you want to be prepared. Hopefully the attorney's gone over your records, your criminal records, and pulled everything out and discussed it with you. And they have cleared it up before you go to the interview and make a mess out of it, right? So something might be simple, but maybe the way you answer the questions can cause problems for you at the interview. So be prepared. Make sure you do a mock interview. That's what I do. I'll go over the interview. Obviously, every officer is different. Some are very thorough, and some are more straightforward, and they just highlight the important stuff, and they get through the interview faster. The interview can take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. I've seen even longer, 3 hours, depending on the officer and the complexity of the case. So that's what you want to do. You want to also gather any documents that you have. So maybe any new bona fide marriage documents you want to take with you to establish that the marriage is in good faith, that it's a real marriage. They're going to be looking for marriage fraud. That's why they're bringing people in for these interviews. And because you need to prove, it's your burden to prove that, okay? So it also, another common document that people bring is tax documents. So like right now, we're in March almost of 2024. So if you're going in for the interview and you probably filed your application a while ago, you didn't include your 2024 taxes. So you want to bring those 2024 taxes, any pay stubs for the last 6 months. Those are the kind of things you want to take to the interview. So the day of the interview, what do you want to do at the day of the interview? You want to arrive early. I always recommend arriving 1 hour early. You will hopefully meet your attorney outside. That's what I do usually, and we go in together. You'll need the interview notice that they've mailed to you to be allowed in through the security. Guard is going to want to see that. You're going to have to go through the security, and then you're going to go to a window and you're going to check in. You're going to be fingerprinted, and you're going to have your photo taken. You can wait anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours. If it has been close to 2 hours, you can check in with the officer and at the window that you checked in with, and let them know that it's been close to 2 hours, so that hopefully they call you in. There was a lot of delays during the first Trump administration on these interviews, and sometimes they can take up to 2 hours to be called in to the interview. As I said earlier, as you get called in, the interview can take anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, depending on the officer, sometimes even longer. You could even be separated and ask questions. We talked about this during the last video, and your answers would need to match each other. During the interview, obviously be calm, be composed, listen closely to the questions that are being asked, and only answer the question that's being asked. And typically every question can be answered in 1 to 2 sentences. So you don't just answer the question. If they need more information, they'll ask you another question. If it's a yes or no question, just answer yes or no. And these are very basic tips, but remember them because honestly, they will help the interview go smoothly, a lot more smoothly for you. So after the interview, what happens is that the officer will make a decision. Sometimes the same day they'll approve you, hopefully, but sometimes they need more time to review the application. This was going on a lot during the Trump administration where they would say, we need to still do the background security checks or something like that, and they would send you home, and then, it could be a few weeks. Sometimes, unfortunately, it would be a few months before they sent in the decision. If you do receive an RFE, a request for evidence after the interview, make sure you respond to that. And hopefully you're having an attorney guide you through this whole process because it really does make a difference. Statistically, you're going to have faster processing times of your application, and you're going to have a higher chance of having your application approved and avoid any hurdles or any little missteps that a lot of people can take, and that's when they finally reach out to you after everything's gone bad. And sometimes it's very difficult to clean up the mess that's been made, and it would have been a lot easier if you just had a strategy and a good approach for any of the issues that you may have in your application. All right, so if you need to reach me, you can reach me at rodarmandelaw.com, and take care everyone. Stay tuned for more updates.